We'll call this regular committee of the whole meeting to order on Tuesday, November 12th, 2019 at 7 p.m. Please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Your public participation, Kevin, you're up. Make sure you speak right in the microphone if you would.
I'm here today just because I was going to see, I've been talking to a few people. I wanted to see about possibly having anywhere from 4 to 6 chickens. I know that's something kind of different for some people to think about, chickens in town, but I was looking for maybe about 4 to 6 hens. Everybody knows about the big push about eating fresh and you know, things that are good for you. And I've been looking around. I tried looking at other ordinances around other cities. I've pulled up some places like Bloomington, Springfield, Decatur, Chicago, St. Louis, and the city of Cincinnati. And every place I looked up, you're allowed to have chickens. I found one place that you weren't, but they're in the process of changing that, and that's Williamsville. And I know I was reading something that said their attorney said there shouldn't be any problem on putting an amendment in there to change that to allow it. But from what I found, it seems like most people allow you to have, most places are around 6 hens, and they always make you have them enclosed. You know, they're not allowed to run free. And it was just something that I thought would be, you know, good for my family, you know, some responsibility for my kids, and just we like fresh eggs, so that'd be something just kind of fun to do. It'd be obviously something I wouldn't let you know, bring down my property or anything like that. I like where I live, and I've spoke to a couple of my neighbors, and they didn't really see a problem with it. They didn't have any objections to it. I know the big thing is everywhere I've looked, most places do not allow roosters because of the noise, and I really wouldn't need any roosters. So that's why I'm here, just to see if that's something we can maybe talk about or you guys can think about, and just let me know later on. So,
Mr. Keller?
Thank you, Mayor. And I think many of us are probably aware of this, but I think it was 2014, an ordinance was passed by the City Council. This is 6-2-32. I'm just reading this. It says, keeping of certain animals prohibited. It says, except as otherwise expressly provided in this chapter, no person shall keep, harbor, or allow to keep within the city limits any live chicken, turkey, goose, duck, poultry. Then it goes on, including lynx, bobcat, bear, hyena, wolf. So thank you for not asking for those. But so my understanding is if the city did take this up, of course, we would have to redo the ordinance or reword that provision in there. I guess since I have the microphone, one follow-up question. I know I'm familiar with your backyard, but tell us a little bit about what particular type of setup you would envision and how much room you have to enable this kind of thing.
well, I know I just put up a dog fence, and it was just used about 2/3 of my front yard and my side yard, and most of my backyard. It used, I know, 500 feet of wire, so I've got a pretty good sized lot. My thought was to have it where it's basically blocked off from my neighbors in that. I've got 2 sheds, and I was going to think about putting a privacy fence in between the 2 sheds to kind of keep them away from anybody else being able to see them. And I was just going to have a small coop, just an enclosed coop that so I wouldn't have to worry about animals getting them or and bothering anybody else.
Schmidt?
Mr. Keller, since I wasn't here before, I'd like to know, were you on the city council? Who was on here when they made that ordinance? Can you tell me why they made that ordinance? Because I don't have any idea.
There was a rooster that was driving one neighborhood crazy, and then somebody wanted to have goats.
Pygmy goats, correct. So we just encompassed a lot of animals, as you can tell by the ordinance. And at that time, the person was just asking about goats. So
My feeling is, it sounds fine for someone that's gonna take care of it, but what do you do with the people that don't? I don't mean have roosters, but I can't imagine having if I move into a neighborhood and then suddenly someone starts having chickens all over right next door and doesn't do the precautions that you do. It's awful when you have to, stop someone that's gonna take care of something like this because of people that don't, but that's my only concern.
I do know that there was, I want to say it was in Chicago, if I remember right, which I can leave these for you guys to look at if you'd like, but some of them were set up where there were no restrictions. However, some of them said that could be changed, or you could have to get rid of them if they had a complaint from neighbors saying that, hey, this is not being kept, or hey, you're making too much noise or whatever. So I know the ones with the noise, though, we're talking about ones that allowed roosters as well. But like I said, I'm not wanting any roosters. I just want the chickens for the eggs.
Steve?
Thank you. Without having seen those ordinances, I guess, is there any language in there about the waste from, how do you dispose of the chicken waste, I guess, and those types of things?
There was one in here, and I believe it was, might have been St. Louis. That did mention that, just saying that you had to make sure you kept it clean, but that was something that, like I said, a neighbor could complain about. And that'd be one of those things that, like I said, from what sounds like with the noise and that if somebody complained, either you take care of it or you had to get rid of your chickens, is what I mean.
So we'd have to have like West kind of keep track of that, and they definitely have to be enclosed because there was a coyote in my backyard. I got my dog last night, and they'd get those chickens no problem.
Tracy and Sam.
So I happened to be on the planning commission at the time that this went into effect, and we had the conversation about the goats. And so my question is this perhaps something that the planning commission should re-examine and then provide a recommendation to the council?
I think the more information we can get on it, the better.
So then I would make that recommendation that we reach out to the planning commission, the chair of the planning commission. It's Mr. Klug, I believe.
Okay. That's what we'll do. We'll get back to, do you want to leave those copies?
Yes, I will leave these for you.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else that would like to speak under further presentation?
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. All right. Moving down, we have the proclamation for Zonta International, Lincoln, Illinois Chapter 100th year anniversary, effective November 18, 2019.
Consent agenda.
Okay. Place that on the consent agenda. Next, we have the discussion for commitment to the City of Lincoln employees and families health insurance renewal, alternate or additional Health Alliance or Blue Cross Blue Shield insurance for 2020. Ladies?
For those of you I have not met, I'm Nancy Schaub. I am the Director of Agency Services for R.W. Garrett Agency here in Lincoln, and I am the account executive assigned to the city for their employee benefits. So I'm here tonight to talk about the health insurance renewal and the process that we went through this year. So the city has been with Health Alliance since 2011. And in late September, we received the renewal from Health Alliance, and they were requesting a 30% rate increase. In the past, the renewals have been anywhere between 11% and 0%. Last year was a 5% increase. And the reason for the increase was they look at the last 3 underwriting periods of time, and 2 out of those 3 years, they had losses totaling over $500,000. There were also 6 large claims, and by a large claim, that would be a claim over $25,000, totaling approximately $800,000. So we requested that Health Alliance review again after October the 15th. That allowed for one more month of claims to come in. And because of that, and then along with a change in the census of the employees that were covered under the city, they were able to take that 30% increase to 19%. So we met with the Insurance Advisory Committee and were asked to get some additional proposals. So we went out to the carriers, and of course, Health Alliance had offered their renewal. We had requested a quote from them for their balanced fund, which is a partially self-funded plan that they have, but they would not offer a quote on that due to the loss ratio. We went to United Healthcare, and they did provide a quote for us. Aetna did not respond to our request to quote. Humana did not quote as they were not competitive in this area. And then there was a quote received from Blue Cross and Blue Shield. So once the quotes were evaluated, Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Illinois offered the most competitive premiums. So we submitted that for what's called a stage 3 rate, or a more final or complete rate. And so then we met again with the Insurance Advisory Committee to present those rates, and also some optional plan designs from Health Alliance. And that's the information that you have in your packets. So Blue Cross could offer some savings to the city due to a lower employee rate. Those who have dependent coverage, and there are only a few in that category, but they would have to pay more for their dependent coverage under the Blue Cross plan. The coverages were comparable. No two plans or no two companies are going to have plans that match up exactly. The network of doctors and hospitals that can be utilized under Blue Cross is probably comparable, if not greater, because it is a national network, although the HMO plan would not allow access to the Springfield Clinic. So once these options were presented, the unions surveyed their membership. And Peggy or Beth, do you want to comment on that then?
I just want to say thank you very much for doing this. You know, our committee, we started this committee because of what 2 of the 3 unions wanted to do. And so Nancy and I'm losing my voice. Anyway, you came forward, and we too late to go out for a broker, and that's what the committee decided they want to do, is go out for a broker next year, just to go out to see if we can get some other brokers. You've given us wonderful service. You've really tried. I know you've taken cuts also as well, but appreciate what you did, and I think the advisory committee, don't you think, Peggy? I think they all were pretty satisfied. Do you want to tell them what our verdict was?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Well, we thought we'd go with Health Alliance. That's what the majority of the people that responded told us what we would do this year. And we understand there's different packets, we're different levels. So can you explain a little bit of that real quick?
Sure. The renewal that is being offered, there are no changes to the plan of benefits. So if the city wants to retain the 3 plan of benefits exactly as they are, they can. They can move to a slightly different prescription card if they want at no extra cost. And then Health Alliance would also allow the city to choose 2 additional plans if they would like to offer as many as 5 plans to the employees.
So, excuse me, is that something that we then have to, as a committee, narrow this down from 5, or can we give 5 to the employees and they choose what they want? We need to narrow this?
I would say in general, probably the city would choose the 5 plans that they would want to offer.
Okay.
And then the employees could choose amongst those 5 plans.
Okay. Do you think we need to have another meeting quickly, soon, sometime, with you coming in, you and Sarah coming and talking?
You're going to?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was busy working on something, I didn't see the email. Okay, go ahead. Why don't you explain your email? Go ahead.
The council needs to vote next week on this, so it needs to be decided prior to Thursday what they're going to vote on. So I sent the email out to the advisory committee that, because they just told us everybody said Health Alliance. They didn't say which plans. We're going to go with what you have on there as the renewal, the 3 renewals. I myself like the idea of a higher deductible, so somebody that needs to put their family on or their children on, yeah, their deductible's higher, but the premium to adding those out of their pocket is a little cheaper. I think that's at least an option we could give to everybody, which would be an additional. But to go with the renewal line or the alternate line, that's up to the committee to decide by Thursday.
Probably should have. I mean, if we could, even Thursday morning, if you could make it, or, I don't know, we'll have to talk about it. Okay.
Tracy.
Don't have much time.
So the 19%, is that regardless of whether the 5 plans are offered?
Correct.
So then I say put it on the agenda and let the committee decide what they want to do and then bring it back to us, the details. Hopefully we can get those emailed out to us, but there's not an increase. Just out of curiosity, what is the dollar amount increase that results in from where we're at today versus now? Or well, when this plan goes in effect? Because you said we were at 11% last year? Is that what you said?
5% last year. 5%.
So we're going from 5 to 19%?
Well, in the,
Because I know it wasn't 19 before, right?
Mr. Conzo.
no, I think we budgeted for 5%, but again, keep in mind that that's, from January through April, because, we knew what the insurance rates, the premium was going to be from May through December, and so this is the last 4 months of the fiscal year, and I think we budgeted at 5%, and then we did build some extra into the appropriations. And so it's a lot's going to depend on what plan people select after they see that too. And we may have to adjust that accordingly.
Kathy Schmidt.
So Nancy, was it 5% increase last year and now 19% above that 5%?
To answer your question, Tracy, it's about $140,000. That is total premium to total premium. So, the employees do pay a portion of their premium. The retirees pay a higher portion of their premium. So that's just the total dollars. That whole expense is not for the city.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions or discussion? Mr. Conzo.
Thank you, Mayor. We did budget total, and this includes dental and life insurance as well, at $922,393 based on that. Last year we had a budget of $894,957, and we finished right about in there. We were a little higher on some lines than we thought and lower on others. We did some appropriation amendment to cover that. This is the budget, though, not the appropriation. I know there's more built into the appropriation offhand. I couldn't tell you how much that was.
Okay, we can talk about that later.
Look at that.
Thank you.
Further questions? So we'll place this on the agenda and you'll get more information.
I would just like to thank the city for the trust and confidence that they have placed in our agency. We have been a part of this community since 1982. We employ local people. We encourage them to go out and be a part of the community in which they work and live. And tomorrow, if anyone is free, if you'll stop over at the guest house between 7:30 and 9, the coffee is on us. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving down, we have the request permit AM Eats Cart and Catering, owned by Andrea Dykeman, to sell food in 2 parking spaces on the City of Lincoln streets at Scully Park, December 5th, 2019, from 4 to 7:30 or 8 o'clock.
Consent agenda.
Place that on the consent agenda. Ordinance extending Ameren Illinois Company franchise agreement 20-year renewal to construct, operate, and maintain an electric utility system in the City of Lincoln.
Place on the agenda, regular agenda.
Everyone okay with that? Okay. Place that on the regular agenda. Next, we have the ordinance extending Ameren Illinois Company, the franchise agreement 20-year renewal to construct, operate, and maintain a gas utility system in the city of Lincoln, Illinois. Regular agenda. Okay. Tracy.
Mayor, would you mind if, I believe Alderman Bateman has the numbers from the meeting. I know when we talk about 20-year agreements that will catch the attention of some people. And I think it's worth explaining why the individuals that sat in on that meeting brought it to the council as a 20-year agreement. So Kevin, can you share that?
So currently, the agreement that expires is a 50-year agreement. And what that basically entailed is the city of Lincoln in certain properties basically, and I confirmed this with the clerk's office, doesn't pay utilities for City Hall, the Decatur, Hamilton Street Garage, the little shed out at the waste facility, and then there was a property at Decatur and Sangamon. Maybe Mr. Gonzo knows what that is.
Decatur and Sangamon, I do not know.
We don't know either, but that was 50 years ago. So
that's what you thought I'd know.
So anyway, the new agreement is a 20-year agreement, and what they come back with is now instead of free services, they base it on utilities, and what this agreement is so that they don't have to get a permit to maintain their lines on city thoroughfares and such. So if a line goes down, they don't have to wait for Wes's office to get them a permit. This agreement says they can go in and fix their electrical line on city thoroughfares. So the numbers are for electric. The first year they would they write a one-time a year check, and it would be 90 days after they sign the agreement. The first year they would pay the city $28,590. This is for electric only. Second year, $44,740. Third year, $60,890. Fourth year, $77,040. And the fifth year, $93,200. And it's the same years 6 through 20. So that comes to $1,702,460 for electric over a course of 20 years. On gas, identical wording, just they insert the word gas. First year, $13,580. Second year, $20,145. Third year, $26,710. Third year, $33,275. Fourth year, $39,850, and the same amount years 6 through 20. That comes to $731,310. So the total payments to the city over 20 years would be $2,433,770. So in that same meeting, Alderman Welch and I asked the city clerk to look into the utility bills for those buildings, because as of signing that agreement, they would now be billing us for utilities instead of just giving us the utilities for free. And I didn't pull that email up, but it averaged $1,200 a month or so.
No, they went back a year on this building, and the highest bill was $1,700 for 1 month.
And the lowest was in the $600 range. So it was higher in the summertime, lower in the winter. So, which we were surprised because we thought it would be much higher than that. So yes, the city would have to start paying utilities on this building, Hamilton Street Garage, and the little shed out at the waste facility. We currently are paying a utility bill at the new street garage and a utility bill at the new police station. That wasn't in that 50-year agreement. We also brought up how extremely high the utility bill is at the police station, and Ameren is willing to do a free energy assessment of that building, and I think we included the new street garage in that so that we can make sure that we're getting the best bang for the buck for them newly constructed buildings. So that, in a nutshell, that's the agreement here. again, the first check arrives 90 days upon them signing it, and then they would start billing us for the utilities, but that's the dollar amount that we would receive over a 20-year period.
I think the significant part for me when we had that discussion was they gave us free therms, if I'm not mistaken. So we asked them what the value of the free therms was that we were receiving annually. I believe for electric it was around $13,000 a year that they gave us, and for gas $6,000 or $7,000. So as you can tell by the numbers Kevin shared, just on the electric side, we were getting $13,000 for a year, and now they're going to give us $96,000 a year over the course of 20 years. That's a significant revenue stream for the city for the same service that we received.
Well,
In your discussions, is it possible to have them notify us of locations where they're excavating? Not necessarily a permit, but notification at some point where they're excavating in the right of way or the streets?
I'd have to look it up, but we can, if it's not in here.
Within a week, or, just a time period that they would be willing to work with us, just so we know where they're at and what they're doing. We've had situations in the past where they've trenched a line in and, it doesn't get addressed right away, and maintenance, things start collapsing and sinking and becomes an issue. So, if they can make us aware within a certain reasonable time period where they're doing work, at least we can monitor it and make sure it gets repaired correctly and make sure that they're following code when they do the repair.
Kevin?
We could most certainly put that in there, because I think we asked, they do Julie and those kind of things. They don't go on private property at all. This is just city thoroughfares and city-owned property. So the individual that came to us, I'm sure that would not be a problem that they at least give us notification of when they're going to work, especially on the city thoroughfare.
Yeah, so paragraph 4.3 deals with permit obligation. It does reference notification to the municipality, except in the cases of emergencies. So it says the company shall notify the municipality of the location and extent of the planned excavation. So I think 4.3 addresses your concerns.
Okay.
If it doesn't, we can reach out to them.
And then also the fact that they should be doing the repairs to code.
Yes, it does reference code in here as well.
Any further questions or discussion? Place this on the regular agenda as well. Kevin?
We can, the clerk can scan this and give it to Walt so he can look it over between now and next week to make sure that the wording's adequate to what he would like it to say.
It's in the packet. 4.3 is.
Okay. All right. Very good. We'll place that on the regular agenda. Mr. Conzo, you're up.
Thank you.
Starting with the first GO.
Okay, we have 3 resolutions there abating property tax. These are all alternate revenue bonds, and I'll just go through and list them here. Let me a little background on this. We've issued these bonds with the intention of paying them from sources other than the property tax, and in order to do that, the council has to vote to abate the property tax, so it's not included in the tax. The first one of these is $2,285,000 alternate revenue bond from 2014. Amount that we will be abating for that would be $173,717.50, which is the amount of our bond payments on this bond that will be due in 2020. This is the bond for that funded the project in the TIF district. That is paid for with a TIF increment which does come out of the property tax for properties within that district, and also telecommunication tax is the secondary revenue source for that. After that, anything else in the general fund. The second one is a $5,285,000 GO bond alternate revenue series 2014, and this is This is the one we used to finance the construction and upgrade of the current sewer plant. And this was, I think I've talked about this before, we originally entered into an IEPA loan for that purpose in 2004. When the bond rates dropped significantly, as they did in about 2013 and 14, we refinanced it and saved about $87,000 in so doing it. The amount that we would be abating on this would be $634,375. This bond will be paid for. Well, the last payment on this one will be in December, I think December 1st of 2023. So it overlaps with the ones that will probably be an IEPA loan, could possibly be a bond for the next phase of upgrades in the sewer system. The third one, resolution to abate $3,270,000 in alternate revenue bonds, and this is 2018, and these were for the rehabilitation of the Jefferson School and fit that into what it is now, which is a state-of-the-art police station. And the amount on that for the tax year 2019 that would be paid in 2020, $282,550. And I would ask that you put these on the agenda for the next meeting. Please, the council.
Questions or discussion? Go ahead and place on the regular agenda. Okay, we'll place all three of those. And then Mr. Condon.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you. The handout that you have there was not in the original agenda packet. It's what it is, it compares our tax levies from 2012 through 2018. And you can see that they're very small increases there. We did go for 2012, 2013. We had an increase of about $34,000 in the overall levy. It remained there, remained at that, decreased a little bit for 2016, and then came back up to what it was, or just above what it was in 2015 for 2017, and remained the same for 2018. So now we're looking at what we're going to do for 2019. The first option that you have there is, those numbers are the same as they are for 2018. That would be a flat tax levy. However, there is a consumer price index which regulates the amount that we can increase that without going through some additional steps, which I would not recommend doing. If you were to use the CPI or consumer price index that we have this year, that would be a 1.9% increase in the tax levy, which, what I've done here, and council can decide whether they want to do it this way. What I've done there is just present that option to you. If you elect to do that, that would give us $33,000 plus in additional tax revenue. I would recommend dividing it between the fire pension program and the fire pension and the police pension. And you see the amounts there. We have generally done that in the past with any increases that we've had. And the reason why we've given 55% to the fire pension and 45%. Police pension the fire pension is more underfunded as from an actuarial standpoint. So anyway, there you see the figures for that. The council could elect to continue the levy as it is. It'll be a flat levy. Can go as high as 1.9% or can go at any point in between. But that gives you the range. That would be anything from $0 to $33,787 if you went with the full 1.9. What I'd like to do, give you some opportunity to look this over and discuss it further at the next committee of the whole meeting. You need to act on this by the last voting meeting in December. It has to be filed by the 4th Tuesday in December. The last voting meeting is December 16th, unless you were to schedule additional meetings. So you have some time there. Committee of the whole meeting on the 26th, which I would recommend we get close to finalizing this. We then publish that proposal in the pages of the Courier and have a public hearing either prior to the committee of the whole meeting on the 10th or prior to the voting meeting on the 16th, at which time you would need to make a decision on this.
Does anyone have any questions at this time? Okay, so we'll bring it back up in 2 weeks? Okay, very good.
I'll try to get some more detail.
Okay. Thank you. Moving down, then we have the discussion regarding city's current farm lease with Mr. Kent Cross. Beth?
Yes, well, we went and did some research, and Peggy did find the last lease we had with this gentleman for our 40 acres down in the West Kickapoo, South Kickapoo area was to expire February 28th of 2018. So we either need to extend this agreement and give the mayor the authority to do that, or we go draw up a new lease. We're charging $150 per acre, and I'll let city attorney Mr. Hoblet talk.
Okay, whereas this isn't exactly legal advice, but I do have some knowledge of farm-related or farm-type activities, so I figured I'd share a little bit with the council. I'm pulling this information from the U of I, information for making 2019 cash rental decisions. This information was promulgated by the National Agricultural Statistical Service, the NASS. It found that in 2018, the average for cash rents in Illinois was $223 per acre. Now, keep in mind, the average for per acre, it differentiates as to how much your land is actually producing. So, for just regular old farm producers, again, the state average was 223. Excellent, excellent farmland was about 281 per acre. Good farmland about 221. Average farmland about 173, and fair is, well, anything that's not quite up to average standards. For professionally managed farms, excellent's about 290, good is about 250, average about 210, and fair, which is anything less than 165 bushels, is about 175. Now, having said that, Logan County tends to tend higher for the for the Illinois average prices. In fact, from what I see here, the 2017 county cash rents, and the NASS did not promulgate such report per county for 2018, but pulling from 2017, it would appear that Logan County could be the highest, in Illinois. And that seemed to be at around 289 per acre. That was the average. And if you want to take your excellent / good / average rankings there, it probably behoove this council to find out as to how much that land is producing on average, and kind of what we have affixed there now seems to be quite the deal.
Kevin?
So, doesn't the city ever put this out for bid? Because like the county farmland, they put it out for bid, and I've attended several of those over the years, and we open the envelopes, and then it becomes a bid. The farmers take turns raising their hand and raising the dollar amount per acre until they get to the winning bid, and then I don't remember for how long it is, but I know it's 1 or 2 years or maybe longer. But instead of just reaching out to Mr. Cross, has anybody ever, has it been discussed to ever put the farmland out for bid? Because the first one I attended with the airport farmland, I was quite surprised of, and like what Mr. Hoblet just said, how much Logan County farmland actually brings per acre.
Anyone have any other? Beth?
Yeah, I do agree. I think we should put it out for bid. And I don't know if you want to extend this or you just want to keep it as it is and we go out for bid and let him know that we're doing that. So, somebody like to volunteer to handle that?
I mean, we could form a committee and just, set a date and open the envelopes in the mayor's office, and if they show up to up their bid, I've attended those before, and like I said, I was quite surprised at how much. I know the airport goes for well more than the 150 we're getting for the 40 acres we have leased with Mr. Cross right now.
Ron?
Thank you, Mayor. I certainly agree with Alderman Bateman. I think that should go to a bid process. I'm just curious, though, is there a particular timeline in which farmers would like to have this kind of thing settled? Because obviously they're thinking about the next year's crop at this time of year. I'm just not wanting to put anybody in a bind and preclude any particular bids because we're waiting too long in the process.
Mr. Howlett?
It just depends on when the lease lasts. I mean, Beth, when it expired, was November of 2018?
No, February 28th of 2018, it expired, so.
Well, it seems to me then Mr. Cross should have expectation that by February 28th, that there would be some sort of resolution to this.
And I do want to note, he has paid consistently.
Tracy?
So when we send this out for bid, I think we need to take into consideration the fact that we've got a solar RFP that's out for bid as well that will be erected on this property if it's approved by the council. So we need to take that into consideration in the language.
Yes, I wanted to ask, were we talking maybe approximately 5 acres maximum, 2 acres maximum?
When they did the proposal, it would be less than 5 acres. So, I mean, we could, in the RFP, we could say, subject to 5 acres of a solar garden, and they could bid accordingly. And then if we vote with the solar garden, you know, the solar company would have to pay him for the crops that are in the ground at that point, or we make arrangements that he gets to harvest the crops. I mean, we can put those arrangements in there and work in that language. Or if we could put the farmland out for bid for 2 years, and if we approve the solar garden, say that it can't get started till after the current farm lease is up, and then renegotiate the farm lease after the solar garden. We've got more than one option. That option that I just explained would sound better to me, that we just make it a 2-year lease and the solar, if we vote for the solar garden, then they would take their property and then we lease what is left after that.
Yeah.
You did mention once before that we probably would put that solar garden on the most swampiest or the most wet land. And is there any way we could go ahead and put an email out to all the aldermen, or they could email me and ask if they'd like to be on the committee, and then you make a decision, or so we get started on this, or are we pushing this? I don't want to push it if it's not something you want to do, but looks like we don't have much time.
Real quick, my only concern with the 2-year thing was with the solar people. I assume that they have some incentive, federal incentive, state incentives that they're dealing with, that they might not have a 2-year window of opportunity to get those incentives. So that might be a tipping point for them. But we have to wait 2 years for this project. We might not have what we need. I don't know.
How about I reach out to the company that presented the information to us, find out that information before we decide on an RFP for the farmland.
So based on the schedule that was in the RFP for solar, we'll know well before February or March if we're going to do it or not, right?
Should.
So then we can decide, right?
Right, just that, with the exception that we don't know if they can wait 2 years to do it.
So why would they have to wait 2 years is my question.
He's saying the RFP for the solar will open the bids and decide before the farmland expires in February.
So
the farmland's already expired.
Yeah, so then if the council agrees to move forward with the solar farm, then we know it's a 35-acre lease. If we vote against it, then it's just the 40 acres.
Kevin?
In other words, we can have this all hashed out before the next growing season. We should have it hashed out before the next growing season. And then, obviously, I'm assuming Mr. Cross is paying on a the month or yearly basis?
I believe he pays us twice a year, doesn't he?
I think it's 3 times.
3 times a year? But I did get a call from one of our other farmers asking about buying seed and, you know, planning for some other property that we have. So if we're going to do this, we probably should get started on that, having that committee started so that we could kind of have an idea before we get to the end of the year.
Yep, let's do it.
Just want to email me, anyone that wants to, and we'll get the committee going.
Yes, if you're interested, reach out to either or both of us. We can get that moving sooner than later. Any other questions on that? Nope. Okay. A letter to the U.S. Census 2020 establishing the City of Lincoln, Logan County, Illinois Complete Count Committee with Alderman Keller appointed as the City of Lincoln's volunteer liaison co-chair to the countywide committee. There was a letter in your packet. Does anyone have any questions on that? Place it on the regular agenda.
Consent.
Consent. Oh, Beth.
I just want to say thank you.
Yes. Thank you. We'll place that on the consent agenda. Discussion regarding city's payment of a lump sum Motorola lease. Beth, do you want to discuss that?
Well, city treasurer and I have been discussing this, you know, quite a bit, and as well as with fire chief and the police chief, and we do need to probably make a big decision here, whether we want to use our money we just got through, or we're going to receive through the GO bonds, or to save approximately $58,000 in insurance, in interest over the next 8 years, or we just go ahead with the 8-year lease as it is. But this is going to be a remarkable improvement, don't you believe, both of you chiefs, that to have this kind of service?
Mr. Conzo, do you want to say anything?
Well, just the matter of how you want to pay for it, which I think is significant because you're talking about a great deal of money there, as you can see in the attachments. There's a couple of ways you can do this. We can do it on an annual basis, paying it out of the general fund, divided between the police and fire budget. The other way you can do it is pay it up front. If you pay it up front, there's a savings on the interest rate because you're paying it annually over a period, I think it's from now through 2024. If you do it that way, you're going to pay interest on it. If we pay it up front, you're saving, I think it's $57,000. So that would be, of course, preferable. The thing is, you've got to be able to come up with that money. We are going to issue a general obligation bond here very soon, either in December of this year or early part of January, which will result in bond proceeds of approximately $500,000. We could pay it out of that if that's the will of the council. The only downside to that is that when you do that, you're using up about just under $200,000 to do that. Out of the $500,000 bond, that money has to last, 3 years. It's a 3-year bond, and I would assume that you would not want to issue another one until that one's paid off. So that's really the choice. Do you want to spend that money for the purpose of saving about $57,000 in interest, or do you want to pay that $57,000 and pay as you go? I'm looking at the schedule. It's December of 2025 would be the end of that. It would be payments of anywhere from $31,000 to $42,000 per year in principal, and anywhere from $2,000 to $13,000 in interest, which levels off at $45,057 per year, which is significantly less than paying all of it, or paying the $257,000. Some of that we've got a little bit of money left in the 2017 GO bond, approximately $20,000 there. We've got some of that committed for other things pertaining to that radio system, and that's going to leave us with a balance of $16,563 that we can use. So and they're going to decide that fairly soon, I understand.
Anyone have any comment? Tracy?
Sure, I'll go first. We haven't even issued the bond yet, and makes me a little nervous. Tapping into over half of the proceeds from the bond, because the premise of taking that bond out was if we had emergencies, we needed repairs to vehicles, stuff like that. So I'd hate to see us get into a situation where we then have to go out and borrow more money if something major happens and requires our attention. So I would, although it's always good to save money, at least for the first couple of years, I'd rather just pay the monthly or the annual fees on those.
Steve?
Chuck, can you give some examples of some of the emergencies that we've had in the past?
Yeah, we've had lots of things break, and it's usually not the things we expect to break, but we've had expensive equipment, fire equipment, police. We've had building problems with the building, not only this building, but with other, other city buildings and structures that we've had to spend money on. And, that can easily be $50,000, $60,000 at a time. And Mr. Weinacke, he's been here longer than I have, and he probably can think of more examples.
Yeah, I know. I'll call on the fire chief. A few years ago, we had a engine that the tanks were totally shot, and we had to replace the tanks and at a huge cost because they were no longer in warranty.
Yeah, I'm not sure what year that was. 5104 had to have the poly tank replaced, and I think it was to the tune of about $8,000 or $9,000. I could be off on that cost. That was just for the cost of the tank. I don't know what it cost to put it in.
Yeah, I think it was significant because of you had to tear a lot apart to get to the tank, I think.
Right. That's what I mean. I don't recall.
Right.
Mark was the chief at the
Right.
time. I don't recall what the bill was on that.
That was one incident. I think there was another one, and we have no one from the sewer department here now, but we had a vacuum, I call it vacuum truck, that had issue where it wasn't technically legal to drive because of the weight.
Oh, the water truck.
Right. We
Yeah.
had to sort of scramble to buy a new truck, and it was quite costly there, and I think we took money.
Yes, that we did. We did.
So that was where
2013 GO.
Yeah, big emergency type items. I just remember the tank issue it was costly. But anyway.
Yeah, that was with the old 5104.
Right.
The truck's been replaced since then.
And that's, thank you, Mayor. That's where I was kind of going with that. We replaced one of the trucks that we had, one of the fire engines that we had with that 2008 Pierce pumper that's down there now. I'm sorry, 2012 was replaced as a result of the fact that the old one was leaking so badly that it would, it was fill up and then it would leak as fast as they were filling it up. So that wasn't good. The truck, as I recall, or the fire engine, as I recall, cost about $500,000, and we used $300,000 out of a $500,000 bond to make the down payment on that. And the other approximately $200,000 we financed through a loan from what was then Illini Bank and paid that off over, I think, 4 years or 3 years. So we were able to do that. Had we not been able to do that, we would have had real problems. I think I've talked about this before. The fire in the bank, the Oasis building here on the corner, occurred right after, or within a few months after we got the new Pierce pumper. So it was absolute good timing on that we did that. But that's the kind of thing that can happen.
Kevin?
So is this the kind of lease agreement or payment arrangement to where I agree with Tracy? I like the thought of saving $57,000. I mean, that's 2 police cars, which we just purchased. So, that put it in perspective. Can we pay over and above, like you would at your own household at the end of the year if we have extra money?
You can pay directly to the principal.
Pay directly to the principal, maybe not save $57,000, but there would be a savings there. We get to the end of our fiscal year and we have money left over, make a larger payment?
That's a very good question, and I don't know the answer to that. I wasn't really involved in the negotiating of this lease, and I don't know if the city administrator knows the answer to that.
I don't know. I don't know. Is there any way, we won't get penalized or whatever if we would happen to come across some money somewhere and pay the rest of it off the next couple of years?
We wouldn't be?
I don't
there
think
wouldn't
we
be?
would be. No.
That would be good. We're going to issue these bonds, like I said, the beginning of January 2020. We get to, say, 2022, and we've still got a significant amount of that left because we haven't had to use it. We can apply it directly to the principal and pay all of our part of it off that way. But we'd have to be sure that there wasn't a penalty for doing that.
Would you like me to check into this tomorrow, or do either one of you, police or fire chief, want to look into this tomorrow?
Yeah, I can call our Motorola rep tomorrow and just talk to them about that and see if that is a possibility. So that's not an issue at all.
So how do we want to proceed with this then? We're going to check into it and get back to it, bring it back up, or say we need
We
to
should
vote,
have an
correct?
answer before the voting session, correct?
Yeah, you got to at least make the first payment by December 1st. So based on what you're saying, we'll go ahead with that first payment this year, and if we can get out of it, we'll have that information for later. So
You go ahead and email everyone then.
So you can place this on the lease on the agenda.
Yes.
well, the prior lease was already approved by the council. So
That's fine.
the question tonight was just, do we want to pay it off all at once, or just continue with the lease that we already have in place?
It wouldn't change, the lease wouldn't be rewritten.
No.
So continue,
The lease,
continue with the lease as written, or as previously approved.
the lease was an 8-year lease. The first year, there was no payment.
Yep.
So, and that's gone by. December 1st is the start of the second year of the lease, and that's when the payment's due.
So I think we should put it on the agenda moving forward with the schedule as previously approved, and we can always amend it next week if we need to.
If the lease already been approved, you probably don't need it.
The payment's good.
Just saying, if we're going to make the payment in a lump sum, we can amend the agenda item next week.
Okay, so then we'll probably slide on the regular agenda, and Chief Adams will get back to us. Okay. All right, moving down to Beth with the HP All-in-One printer maintenance and laser cartridges contract.
Okay, we did get attachment A, and the city clerk and I looked it over, and we didn't see where anywhere there was any kind of a statement about having to pay for the cartridges or anything, and I think, like she had mentioned too, that possibly it's after they see what my first month's usage is, or then they might make a decision here, and then we can deal with it at that point. But I have tried to reach her 3 different times this past week and haven't been successful. So I will keep working on that, but I don't know what you want to say. I mean, it sounds like from what I have talked with that gentleman and with her in past, within the last month or two, was that it would be $35 based because of all the different agreements we have with Minolta for the other departments, that they would allow me this $35 a month and take care of the maintenance as well as the cartridges. So that's, I mean, I've asked her several times that question, and this is what she keeps saying. So I don't know, and that's what he said before he left the company. So I can keep working on it if you'd like me to.
Mr. Condon?
This reminds me of a cable agreement or something, which is not a good.
Okay.
But this section here that kind of I keep looking at, it's open-ended, this section 201 of Schedule A, about expected yield, and it says several things, but it says in the event the actual consumption levels exceed the levels used to determine contract pricing by more than 20%, KMBS shall have the right to invoice for excess consumption. We have no way of knowing what that's.
Right, we don't know that yet.
So
the only thing I know is with, like today, we printed out an offer that we had for one of the, we made work on the Fifth Street Road project quite a bit today. Anyway, all this offer that we had to put in the file, in case we ever, have to go forward with this, we have to have copies in the file. So we're almost to the end of that, making these kind of copies. But I don't know what you would like to tell me to cut back on. I've got a lot of work there.
Does anyone have any comments?
Well-
Kevin? Oh, sorry. Tracy and then Kevin.
Quite honestly, if what Chuck just said, I don't feel comfortable entering into an agreement on a brand-new printer. We don't know what the usage is yet. That's my concern, that we enter into this agreement and then we find out it eats cartridges like candy, and then they charge us. I think we need to determine how much, how many cartridges you go through in 1 month before, and then have an idea to say, hey, okay, we use this many cartridges. What do you think our agreement would be? I don't mind the agreement. My fear is we're entering in an unknown because it's a brand new printer and we don't know what we've gone through.
Right. It is a brand new printer.
So, my questions last time we talked about this surrounded the term of the agreement, and based on looking at 803, 804, and 700. 700 mentions at the end of the initial term, it'll be extended for an additional 1-year term. So that tells me that it's a 1-year agreement. And then 803 mentions if the customer terminates within the initial term, they'll be subject to a termination charge per paragraph 804. And then 804 goes into pay liquidated damages. I think this is about equipment though, but equal to 3 months billing based on the prior actual billing over the last 12 months. So I think at $35 a month, if we have to terminate the agreement, I'm okay with that, but I don't know what they mean by termination charges and how they would base that on service. It's a 1-year agreement. I guess the worst case, it's what?
I mean, I'm still reaching.
$360.
Right. I'm still reaching out to her, so I'll try again tomorrow. Maybe I'll have an answer for you, but what do you want me to do with that?
Just a quick question. So Beth, you mentioned that you might need to have copies in case something happened, but do you mean electronic copy wouldn't suffice?
We go into court on this stuff. You've got to have copies of your plat and that kind of stuff, and the deed and everything that we've got to have available. When I inherited this job, not all the files were complete, so I've been trying to get the files completed so that we have all 44 parcels.
Oh, so you're talking the copies to go into
our files, so we have them, deed and everything that we have when it comes in, so we've got a complete file. So when he goes and has to do something or whatever in a little bit, we have everything ready to go.
So we
for the
provide,
future.
so we provide the city attorney free copies already. That not that we would send electronic copies to him, that he would use his printing.
He could, but I guess unless you sit right next to me every day, you won't know what we do. We get all kinds. Like just today, 4 different things came through on these parcels. So it's just evolving all the time.
Thank you.
Say we just place it on the regular agenda.
Any other questions? Placed on the regular agenda? Okay. Discussion of proposed ordinance regarding the city's legalized cannabis dispensary, hours of operation, and number of licenses. Kevin?
So this is the next step. We need to determine, just like we do with liquor licenses, the hours of operation for a dispensary and how many dispensaries we're going to allow inside the city limits, whether now or in the future. I tried to get some idea of what hours of operation are for other dispensaries in other states that's had this for a while. It's kind of all over the place. I looked up some today that the hours, and this is in Colorado, I looked up 8 different dispensaries. They ranged anywhere from 8 a.m. to 6:45, or 9 a.m. to 8:45, or 9 a.m. to 9:50. I don't know what the odd hours are. So I reached out to Mr. McVeigh, who was here, and said, what do you think? And the discussion went to it's a retail operation, and he said 10 to 10. So nothing is saying that it goes into the 2 or 3 a.m., whatever the liquor license is here in town. So it's just up in the air of what the council would like for hours of operation, and of course the number of licenses, that's up in the air also. So I'm open for any suggestion on hours of operation. The one thing I do want to point out is the liquor license, Sunday hours don't start till 11 o'clock on liquor. So even though he said it
Sell
was
liquor after 12.
packaged. So it's up to what the council wants to do. He just said it's retail. So and he said 10 to 10. So anything would work, I assume, but I don't think it should be allowed to sell earlier than alcohol is on Sunday. That's the only thing I'm going to say there.
Sam?
I mean, it's a business. Like, I would think 10's kind of late to open a business. If it was me, I would, which is not me, but 8 a.m. to 10. Is that, anybody have a strong objection to that? Like, it just, to me, it makes more sense, but maybe misunderstanding something.
Okay.
Most retail places generally don't open until 10.
So like here's one from Grandview, Illinois, and their hours are 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. So
I agree. I think 8. I think 8 is a little early in the morning. I didn't have a problem with 10 to 10. That is a average retail sales hour.
Ron?
Thank you, Mayor. Like Alderman Bateman, I looked up and found that there were just all over the place, as you said. And I suppose we are a little bit blind here going into this because we are very unfamiliar with this type of business. So that is why, like Alderman Bateman, I reached out to Mr. McVeigh, and of course, obviously got the same answer, 10 to 10, but he said he's flexible on that sort of thing. So I suppose it is up to this council, and I suppose if we went with something like that, we are obviously, we can change it once we find out if or when we do get a business of such that we find the hours do not accommodate that, we can certainly change that to accommodate the hours better to fit that type of business. But I would say that we're relying on the good judgment of those professionals. 10 to 10 seems like reasonable to me.
Kevin?
So I'm just going to throw this out here, so it's either we can put it on the agenda for next week and have a discussion then. So I'm making the suggestion that the hours be 10 to 10 Monday through Saturday, and I'm going to say noon to 6 on Sunday.
You have any comments to that? Okay, so we'll place 10 to 10 Monday through Saturday and noon to 6 on Sunday on the regular agenda. Okay, number of licenses?
1.
So I was thinking that was our initial conversation anyway. It was 1. Kevin?
There is 2 companies that are competing for licenses, so I'm going to say, and we can amend it later, 3.
So,
Mr. Hoblet?
keep in mind in this area that we are in, there's only going to be 3 licenses allowed, and it encompasses a large swath of Illinois. So even if we do get one, it seems unlikely we would have anything more than 1 at this juncture. Now, if this council wants to future-proof it, so to speak, and put more in when more licenses are allowed, that's one thing. But there's no pendency at this juncture to expect to have anything more than 1 if we do get 1. And in regards to the hours of operation, I would think there's going to be many businesses that's going to be chomping at the bit, so to speak, to open up 1, and whatever this council decides via hours, I'm sure they'll be willing to deal with that. That's all I have.
Kevin?
So Mr. Hoblet is correct. There is a potential for 3 licenses in this area. Mr. McVeigh and the other company both showed an interest in Lincoln. Now, whether both companies will be granted a license from the state of Illinois, that's up in the air. That's the reason I said 3, just in case both of them are granted license and by some off chance both companies decided to land in Lincoln, Illinois. So that's the reason I said 3, and it also prevents, once we pass this ordinance, coming back and making multiple amendments down the road. That's what we're elected to do, but it prevents that one step. So that's the reason I said 3. I seriously doubt that we'll end up with more than 1, if we even end up with 1, but that was just my suggestion based on conversation.
Kathy Schmidt?
So did you just say that we had agreed to 1 in the past?
That's what the discussion was in the beginning.
So I think we should leave it at 1.
I mean, my opinion is I think we'd be lucky to get 1 for starters anyway, and that was the initial conversation, and that would allow us to see how it goes at first. So, I mean, I would be in favor of 1. Tracy?
Yeah, so I understand where Kevin's coming from on this. I really do. I hear a lot, though, about specific details about these individuals by name and their companies. I don't want to make sure that we're not writing ordinances to fit the needs of specific individuals or companies. They have to be very broad and generic for everybody to be competitive. But in the same breath, whether you set it at 1 or you set it at 3, I think in our discussions about liquor and the fact that now we have unlimited licenses proves that amendments can be made, and sometimes they don't go the way that we had hoped they would when that happens. So I don't know. I'm okay with moving forward obviously based on my previous votes, but I think we need to do it in a responsible and controlled manner, and I think 1 opens the door for it.
So we'll place 1 on the regular agenda. Okay. Moving down then, do we have an update on Fifth Street Road, Beth?
Real quick, just about 5:30.
Microphone.
Just about 5:30 tonight, I sent everybody my Gantt chart. I did do it digitally. I do have a copy here if you'd like one, if you didn't get it, if you can't get it, because it is on 8x14. But getting back to your little question yet earlier, not everybody that we talk with are digitally minded. A lot of them want to see on a piece of paper where that entrance is going to be, or if they're put another cut into something, or if, where the setback is, where the right-of-way. So sometimes they do walk out with one of our city pieces of paper. So I'm just telling you, I try and go with the flow here. I am mindful of my use on the copier, and I try to use when I can down at the city clerk's office. But
I only asked a question because I thought we were just keeping it in a file folder system. That's why I was asking.
And the other thing is, if you see on my Gantt chart that came, we discussed with the Lincoln Industrial Park. I discussed with one of the owners today for about 45 minutes. We had a nice conversation. There was a little misunderstanding on some things. We are going to have a meeting coming up between him and some other ones that I ended up calling later and talked with them as well today. We did have the thing on the Lincoln Transload has come through, so that's good. They've signed the paperwork, and we're moving forward on that. As well as Mr. Meinershagen, we're working with him, and he has had some questions, and Walt is going to work with him on some things. So we are moving. Oh, we have one more thing. The storage box, we don't have to move the sign back, so that's going to save us about $7,000. So we're working at it.
Have any questions? Tracy?
So Beth, in looking at this Gantt chart,
Yes.
am I correct in saying that any row on this chart that is colored is still up in the air?
Yes. And if it's white, it pretty much has been taken care of.
So it looks like we have like 16 or 17 outstanding items.
Just a little bit, yes. And it, like I said, it evolves about every day. We've got something that comes through.
So, and then my follow-up question is, are there any individuals who are sent a 60-day letter that you do not have contact with, and we are in the process of some activity with them?
No, we are pretty much set now.
You have a response
And we've heard from
every
everyone,
person?
yes. So we're in the works with them. I don't know how much more time you want to give. I mean, it was a 60-day deadline, but we did make some progress again today with that one individual, has 3 properties, and we made progress last week when we had a meeting with him, and then somehow something got misinterpreted or whatever, but we're back on square again with it, so we're fine. With all that. The meetings are coming up. I'll be letting you know.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Do we have any announcements?
Yes, and I'm sorry, I monopolized everybody tonight, I'm sorry.
Comcast.
Comcast, they're going to take away our cartoon package.
Oh, no.
January 7th, so, anyway.
Vampirina is out.
And then, January 1st, the FM cable network's going to do a different lineup, so expiring program contracts. Just want to let you know, and we do have an upcoming Comcast meeting with the IT committee. We're working on that, so just want to let you know.
Are there any other announcements? Bob? Chief?
I'd just like to say congratulations to Mark Mann. He is finally retiring from Logan County Dispatch tonight. He was a police officer for the city of Lincoln, I believe, and he's put in 42 years of service, and he signed off at 5:30 this evening.
Do we have any other announcements? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned.
Second.
Trace made the motion. Steve seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Meeting is adjourned at 8:18 p.m. Thank you.
I need to get on that quick.
That was better than I thought we were going to be here alone. Especially with the cannabis.